It almost never happens that a player becomes the league MVP in the same year they win the Defensive Player of the Year award, and it appears likely we'll have that this year. And you'd think that a player that magnificent would be the focal point of any offensive attack. And after all, Giannis did lead the Bucks in scoring and assists while spearheading a historically great #1 defense. But are these accolades just regular season awards? Does something happen so profoundly in the playoffs that his role in the team suddenly changes? With only 12 field goal attempts and no real presence down the stretch of a key playoff game, it's time to look at what happened and why Giannis might not be able to be the player the Bucks need. Let's start out by examining what the Heat defense was doing to thwart the usually overpowering Greek Freak attack. Their biggest concern is in transition, where Giannis can use his ridiculously long strides to bully and euro his way for easy scores. Notice how the Heat present a three-man wall, willing to give up open jumpers to great shooters as Giannis finds Korver for the triple. Again, as he brings it down the right side, Kendrick Nunn is to his right and Andre Iguodala to his left, flanking Bam Adebayo. Giannis goes to work, but Bam does a good job of flattening him on the drive, and Giannis doesn't really have a left-handed shot from this position. Plus, 4 defenders are surrounding him, so he has to give it up to George Hill, who promptly steps out of bounds. And in the fourth quarter, he seemed to lose some patience and tried to burst through the wall single-handedly, but Iguodala's hands are just too fast for that. But this wall wasn't just formed in transition. On the reversal, they've got a 3-man phalanx set up in front, willing to give up an open look from the corner, and Giannis makes the right play to get the assist. When the Heat can get into this 3-man formation, there's nowhere for him to go, as Kyle Korver pops to the wing for the handoff into shot. Speaking of Korver, one reason Giannis got so few shots last night is because whenever he was out there with him, Giannis barely looked at the rim, intent on standing around waiting for Korver to run around for the handoff into an outside shot. It was a little strange to see how consistent this was, turning the reigning MVP into little more than a role player big man from the 70s. If he wasn't holding the ball with his back to the basket looking for Korver, he was screening for him as much as possible, desperate to get him open for his lethal shots from behind the arc. This then brings us to another very curious role he takes on in their offense, as their primary screener and dribble handoff guy. It is truly remarkable how often it's his job to simply set good screens in the offense. Of course, he's a big player with wide shoulders and a strong base, but when you look at this in the context of an MVP and top 3 player in the league, it's kind of startling. No other top ball handling player screens for other players so much. Normally, it's those players who get the screens, but instead, I was taken aback by how much Giannis resembles a center from the 90s, just setting pin downs into ball screens and then rolling to the hoop strong, hoping to suck some defenders in with his gravity to open up shots for other players. The problem is, the Bucks don't really have anyone else that is elite at creating off the dribble, so they're taking their best on-ball threat and relegating him to spectator, as the defense can easily jump into some of these passing lanes and deny him the ball back. Or he'll just watch his teammates try to generate something on their own, but good luck with that. I'm not sure there's a lot Giannis' teammates can do to suddenly get better at creating shots for themselves. The one thing that always helps is trimming hair below the waist. If you let that area overheat, moisture occurs, and that's the first step in losing control of your balls. That's precisely why you need Manscaped and their all-new Lawnmower 3.0. This thing is rechargeable, waterproof for the shower, it's got a built-in LED light to guide you through the less lit parts, and best of all, if you act now, you'll save 20% off your order. Check out the Perfect Package 3.0 Essential Kit. Did I mention how important it is to keep your balls fresh? You want them to go in the basket, don't you? Use my code BREAKDOWN20 to save 20%, and I'll even score you 2 free gifts: the Shed travel bag and a pair of anti-chafing briefs, so that your crossovers will cross over pain-free. Click on the link below, use code BREAKDOWN20, and you'll instantly find out why the defensive personnel in the Heat are uniquely qualified to guard Giannis, with no fewer than 4 players that can all battle him. In Bam Adebayo, they've got a mobile big man who quite honestly doesn't need as much help as the Heat are giving him. Spoelstra should at least see if they can get by on more possessions of one-on-one defense, since he's big enough to keep the Greek Freak out of the lane and dare him to shoot from deep. Andre Iguodala is just another irritant with quick hands who has the IQ to frustrate Giannis to no end, and I can guarantee we'll see several instances in this series where Giannis will be so frustrated having to go against him, he might even disengage and not even try to look for a shot. With his constant stripping of the ball, even the foul calls will wear on Giannis and make him overprotective of the ball. Jay Crowder is the first guy who gets a crack at him in this series, and you'll see him willing to give up any kind of jumper from outside 15 feet. And it's that cushion that enabled Giannis to find some success early on in the game. Yet I'm sure Spoelstra was just as happy to see him take these as Budenholzer was at seeing them go in. If you don't believe me, here's Bam giving him 10 feet of room and not even putting a hand up, but credit to Giannis for knocking down this practice shot. I'm sure Spoelstra will look at the footage and make a little adjustment to cut down on some of these Crowder possessions, since Giannis' only success was being guarded by him. But I think the best defender the Heat have is Jimmy Butler. Don't forget, when he started his career, he was known as a clamp-down defender. And we've seen Giannis avoid going at top defenders before, like Kawhi Leonard. So when the Heat sixed Butler on Giannis in the second half, it was no surprise he went 3 for 8 for only 9 points, as Butler can help on the drive, but also lure him into another three-point attempt. He missed his last 3 threes. The Bucks should be trying to attack mismatches, like Duncan Robinson or Tyler Hero, and yet they screen with Hill, Jimmy Butler's man, and it erases the offense almost entirely when they can lure the long shot into a brick and save energy. But the biggest issue overall has been well documented. No, contrary to popular belief, it's not the way he manscapes, use my code BREAKDOWN20, it's his jump shot. Despite his improvement shooting in the playoffs so far, teams will continue to give him a ridiculous amount of room and dare him to shoot it. The Bucks' attempts to help him mitigate this issue tend to be stagnant offense, getting it to him like Paul Pierce and Dirk Nowitzki at the free throw line. But the problem is, he can't shoot it like those guys, so these kinds of actions short-circuit pretty quickly. Also, there are key moments, like the end of the third quarter, where Giannis simply must have the ball and create something, but instead, he's nowhere to be found and they generate a tough shot. This game is a good example. He hit his first 2 3-pointers, one very early in the game with no pressure on the outcome, and the second one in the third quarter with a 3-point lead. But his last 2 misses were when they were losing in the fourth quarter, when the pressure is truly on and his shaky shooting mechanics get even shakier. Aside from the 3-point shooting, he really doesn't shoot well from anywhere outside of about 6 feet from the rim. But it's his free throws that cause a whole other set of issues. While the rules have changed for Hack-a-Shaq, and they can't just grab him once the Bucks get the ball, since he does have the ball in his hands so much already, the Heat can be fast and loose with the hands, almost preferring to put him on the line and take their chances there. He's shooting under 56% from the line in the playoffs, and taking almost 9 of them a game. What's wrong, you may ask? Well, in a quick nutshell, he's got no energy transfer, the legs barely bend, he lifts on his toes inconsistently, the ball starts way too high and eliminates any rhythm, and what is his left hand doing behind the ball? And this changes the whole complexion of end-of-game scenarios. Will they be afraid to put the ball in his hands in the last minute and say, go get us a bucket, for fear of the Heat simply putting him on the line? That seems reasonable, and all of these things certainly explain why he didn't get a ton of shots last night. But what does it say about your MVP that he really can't be called upon to win the game for your team? What does it say about your MVP that he's relegated to playing like a backup center from decades ago whose main job was just to set tough screens? To top it off, the Defensive Player of the Year was sitting on the weak side as a spectator as Jimmy Butler was single-handedly winning it with 6 buckets in the fourth quarter alone. In fact, it was Jimmy Butler doing his impersonation of what an MVP should look like down the stretch of a big playoff game. And you bet your butt Giannis is going to have to adjust on both ends to help turn this around for the Bucks, since they are too talented and have had too good a season to just lay down to the Heat. With Eric Bledsoe coming back at some point, it does give them another creator once Giannis gets doubled and gives up the ball. But this Miami Heat team is uniquely qualified to play the Bucks, both with the coaching preparation and personnel matchups to give them serious problems. And if Mike Budenholzer doesn't figure something out soon, they could get bounced in the second round. If you like this video, click the thumbs up button and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe for more playoff breakdowns coming up. We'll have at least one a day during the postseason, so turn on those notifications so you can be alerted right away. You in?